Hey, what's up, everybody? This is Gary Holt from Exodus and formerly from Slayer, and you're listening to The Razor's Edge.
Hi guys, it's Tom here from The Razor's Edge Rocks, and I'm sat here with Greg from Paradise Lost and host. Greg, how's your day been?
My day's been great. I've been sat in here. This is the control room of my studio. Been sat in here since 9 o'clock this morning. Without a break, but I love it. It's great. There's no windows. There's a window into the live room, but that's it. There's no windows to the outside. So it's perfect for me. You know?
Wonderful. Just keep me away from everyone.
Absolutely.
So obviously I know COVID is kind of still here-ish, maybe not, whatever, but how was the last couple of years for you?
Wonderful.
Yeah?
Yeah. Just nothing different for me. It's different not touring, obviously.
Yeah.
But apart from not touring, when I'm at home, I don't see a soul, and I didn't in COVID either. So, I see some family members, and that's it. And I also stopped drinking about a year ago as well. So
Nice.
I don't go pubbing it or anything anymore. So yeah, it's pretty much it's a very solitary life. It's Netflix and studio.
Did you complete Netflix? Because obviously not going anywhere. I imagine you absolutely smashed everything on there.
Pretty much. Yeah.
It was the Tiger King era, wasn't it? Tiger King was the 2020, the big thing that everyone talked about. Yeah.
yeah, which was okay, But yeah, not too bad. How was it for you?
It was all right, actually. I didn't the summertime when it first started. I was like, "Oh, a break. I'm furloughed from work." I worked for a holiday company at the time. I was like, furloughed from work. This is just a nice time to chill, just to recharge the batteries. I actually started doing interviews and podcasting and whatnot myself at like the end of 2019. So COVID actually really helped with that. But then when it got to like the end of 2020, when you get into like the October and when we had the lockdown in November, it got a bit depressing in a way, because it's been like, it's the weather's crap. We can't go anywhere or do anything. And I think it took a toll on a lot of people I think the summertime was great because March was like 35 degrees or something stupid. So everyone was just out like enjoying the big walks in the parks and whatnot, obviously keeping their distance. But I think the winter was terrible myself.
Yeah, it was. I mean, I think most people had a similar curve at the start of the pandemic or whatever, where you thought, oh, it's only going to last a few days.
Yeah.
So you've still got your going out shoes on, thinking that you're going to be straight out the door. I didn't unpack my bag from touring. I mean, the last thing we did before the pandemic was we did a tour of Russia.
Oh, wow.
We're right over the far side of Russia as well, right above China. And we saw something weird starting then. It was bizarre. It was right before the pandemic. So we're over above China. And in the airports, everyone started wearing masks, and we were like, what's going on here? Something's not right. A couple of guys in our crew got ill. One got taken to hospital, not being able to breathe. This is before there was it even got to Europe or anything,
Oh, my days.
And then we flew back, and it just kind of came with us. It hit Italy first and then came to the UK. And we were like, wow, this is like crazy. But like everyone else, we thought it'd just be maybe a couple of weeks tops. And then you kind of, when it's over a month, you go into your kind of slightly depressed period where you're in your pajamas all day.
Yeah.
For a couple of months or whatever. And then start to get productive. And I think most people did that. It's like, okay, well, I've got to utilize this time. Don't look like we're going anywhere for a long time. So let's do something. And yours thing was podcasting, and my thing was the host project.
Yeah. Which we will get to host, but I want to go back a little bit and go back to the beginning slightly. What actually drew you into the world of music? What, when you were growing up, made you go, I want to be a musician. This is what I want to do with my life.
It was just an obsession with music and subgenres of music, because it was all tribal back when I was growing up. I mean, when I first became aware of music, very early 80s, 81, 82, my older brother had a really extensive record collection of, but not really pop music. It was, well, I guess if you class Tubeway Army and some of the new wave stuff as pop, but it was anything from Motorhead to oi music, skinhead music to hardcore punk to Adam and the Ants to synth music to whatever, classic rock. And I just used to go in and borrow his records and come out and listen to them and go in and borrow them. And then when I started going to clubs, I went to the subgenre clubs. So it was where all the punks and the rockers and the goths and whatever went, because for some reason they put them all in the same place, even though they were separate tribes. You know what I mean? So it was kind of battlegrounds almost, but
Yeah.
it was exciting. And it's kind of sad to think that the younger generation isn't going to be able to see that. Not at least with the internet still around, unless there's some kind of social breakdown. It's not going to happen again. But where you get that meeting of minds and butting of heads that creates scenes. And I saw all these scenes emerge, and it was just crazily exciting. You know, I saw the goth scene emerge. I was part of the hardcore punk scene, which eventually turned into the grindcore scene and all the rest of it. And it was just very exciting. So I knew I wanted to be part of all that. Wasn't sure how. Started playing guitar about 14 years old, and it just kind of developed. It fell into it really, as most people do. I think anyone who's had any kind of career in music usually falls into it. You can't train for this kind of thing or plan for it. It's just something that happens because you're at a certain place in a certain time with a certain outlook and passion. And it led on to a tape trading scene in the mid to late 80s. So the tape trading scene was hugely exciting because you were talking to people from far-flung corners of the earth. And this is obviously before the internet, before mobile phones. People didn't talk on the phone much at all then. So it was great. You were writing to people in Japan and Norway and America and giving each other music and finding out about new things that you had no other way of hearing about. And it created this little scene, you know, that eventually we all came out of, you know, Paradise Lost, Carcass, Napalm Death, Bolt Thrower, loads of other bands from Mayhem, you know, from other countries, you know. We all came out of that same tape trading scene. We all wrote to each other, you know.
That's amazing. I never knew that. I never knew that was a thing. Because I was born 87, so like I missed all of that. So obviously my era was like 90s. So obviously I think when I started to become aware of music, I think Skunk Anansie was one of the first things I ever listened to as a child. But then obviously you had like the Spice Girls, I think, came out as well, and then the pop scene just exploded around the late 90s and whatnot. So I didn't even get into rock music until I was a teenager. So that's when like your Linkin Park, Papa Roach and Limp Bizkit came out. But that's amazing. But as you said about kids these days now won't ever get to experience anything like that. It's so true because they've got their face on their phones all the time. It's like TikTok and Snapchat now. It's all, no one really actually engages with each other anymore. And I think like nightclubs and everything now, do they even exist anymore?
I don't think so. I don't think they do. Not how I knew them. But yeah, I mean, it's horrible to. I don't want to sound like saying everything was better back then, because it wasn't. There were lots of things that were worse back then as well. There are a lot of things that have improved. But there are certain things that just can't be repeated, just
Yeah.
can't be, because of the advent of the internet and mobile phones and social media. I mean, just simple things, simple pleasures like gigs were really were for one night only. You didn't know what was going to happen. You didn't know if the singer was going to break his leg. You didn't know if the place was burned down. You didn't know what the set list was going to be. You'd no idea what the band looked like half the time, unless you had a particularly good photo on an album that you could see well.
Yeah.
Everything was wrapped in mystery as well, which made gigs all the more exciting. I mean, really exciting. And it's unless there's some huge, like I said, socio-political breakdown around the world, or electricity ceases to exist, which I'm not sure is worth it just for the sake of music. I don't think any of that's really going to happen in that way again.
Yeah, I think we should. Sorry, we've massively tangent. Let's get back. Let's get back
Oh, sorry,
to. I don't apologise. We're okay. It's good. I like it, but obviously, we are. Let's just touch very quickly on Paradise Lost. You took the music world by storm. You've been called pioneers of the death doom genre. What did you expect Paradise Lost to be as successful as it's been?
Nah, I don't think anyone expects to do anything unless it's a planned thing, like the Spice Girls or something.
Yeah.
Everything else is purely down to. I mean, you can have the best marketing team and record label in the world and throw as much money at it as you want, and it can still fail. It's purely down to enjoying it, especially in the scene that we came from and the scenes that we've grown through. It's all about enjoyment. You've got to enjoy what you do, love what you do. And yeah, I mean, we came from the Death Doom thing, which really didn't exist before we started doing it. It wasn't a band called Autopsy, maybe, were the first two that did it. And then we started doing the Gothic thing, which no one had really brought in, the kind of early 80s goth sound into death metal and doom metal. And then that kind of got picked up. And yeah, we were seen as forerunners of it, but we were never like pulled away in a huge swathe of success or anything like. We never had a hit single, for instance, or which I'm kind of glad about in a way. But we did influence a lot of bands that went on to huge success, which I'm really proud of, and I'm really happy for those bands. But the scene itself, if you call it gothic metal or whatever, if people think of that today, they'll think of something like Nightwish or.
Oh yeah.
We kind of had nothing to do with that. I mean, if you talk to the guys in the band, they'll say yes, they were influenced by us, but I don't see any connection as such musically. I think it's more just, maybe a feeling or something. I don't know, but it's, for instance, if you ask the guys in Lacuna Coil, they were directly influenced. They started a band because of Paradise Lost, but then they influenced Evanescence. And Evanescence have influenced other bands. And if you go down this queue, if you ask the latest band who influenced, they'd have never heard of us.
Yeah.
They don't even know we existed. But I like that about music. I like that it's all these tendrils that go off and it's stuff like that. I still love finding out about things. I mean, Bandcamp is my new tape trading, really. It's
Okay.
Because you find out about all kinds of exciting new music, but the only difference with tape trading is you have to sift through a hell of a lot more shit to get there,
So true. I do that with Spotify. When you find bands, you go, "Oh, I want to sit." Nope, that's fine. Next.
Yeah.
How did you all meet?
I went to school with the original drummer and the other guitar player, who's still in the band with me, Aaron and Matt. We all went to school together, but we didn't hang out at school. They were metal guys. I was a punk guy. And like I said, it was tribal back then. You didn't cross those lines. It wasn't until we left school that we ended up going to some of the same gigs to see similar bands. It was when metal and punk was crossing over, so we ended up going to the same gigs, and then I met a guy at kind of a party. He went on to be the singer of Paradise Lost, who I'm still the singer. And we went to the same nightclub as the guy who was the bass player. So it was local links, just and genres crossing. It really was. You know, I wouldn't have been where I am or got into this if metal and punk hadn't become more accessible with each other. You know, crossed over a little bit.
There's so many subgenres of subgenres of
Oh
subgenres
God,
now.
yeah.
So there's so much out there. It's crazy.
Yeah.
So yourself and Nick have now got your side project Host, which is what we're here to talk about today. So why have you guys just decided to drop this side project now? Why didn't you do it? Has it been in the pipeline for a while, or was it just something you went, let's just do it?
A bit of both. I came up with the idea about 4 years ago, but it wasn't going to be anything other than solo thing, maybe even instrumental, just to pass time, you know. And then the pandemic happened, and that's why we had the time and drive to do it. I guess, you know, it was like, okay, well, let's get someone else involved. So Nick, who I write Paradise Lost stuff with, I'm just really comfortable with him. You know, we've done it for a long time, and I just said, do you want to do this thing with me? I've called it Host. I don't exactly know what it's going to be, but it's going to be kind of centered around pop, synth, goth, and stadium rock of the 80s, but done in a modern context. Are you interested? He said, yeah. So over the course of the pandemic, really, we just kind of did song after song, and each song was different from the next. You know, we'd start one on a piano, then we'd start one on a synth, then we'd start one on an acoustic guitar, we'd start one on the bass. We didn't know how it was going to turn out, and then it turned out how it did. And amazingly, we got offers from record labels, and metal record labels as well, and Nuclear Blast, which it's confusing, really. But I guess time really has moved on, and it's acceptable now to like stuff like this, even if you're a metal guy. So it wouldn't have been years. Well, I know it wasn't, because we did an album like this in 1999, and the metal community were hugely divided over it. But now we're doing this now, it seems far more acceptable. So that can only be a good thing. That's one of the good things, you know. I mean, it's not everything was great back then, you know.
Yeah, the side projects weren't really a thing, were they? They've only really recently become a thing that people do now.
Well, I think it's partly to do with how recording techniques have moved on. How much, you know. I mean, in the late 90s, you couldn't have done a side project because you'd have to get someone to give you financial backing. You'd have to hire a residential studio, put a drum kit in it. You know, it was an expensive business back then, very expensive business. And now, obviously, you can knock something together and say, "Oh, well, this is my idea. What do you think?" You know, which was impossible back then.
That's a very good point, actually. I mean, technology now as well, you can do so much now. It's insane. Like, you can start things just by using your phone now, which, you know, back 20 odd years ago, you would never have thought this would be a thing. But I find, I'm not trying to slug off the music community today, but I find now that auto-tune seems to be a very big thing in the music world that a lot of people are using now, where anybody can become an artist in a way, I suppose. I'm trying not to sound like a knob.
Yeah, I mean, you know, I'm open to lots of different styles of music, but it does seem like it's style over substance. There's very little substance in a lot of this stuff.
Yes, I find there's not enough originality anymore.
Yeah. Yeah, and also, I mean, I know recording techniques have moved on, and it's easy to do stuff and quicker, a lot quicker. But you still got to have an idea there. You still got to have a hook and an idea. Otherwise, it's all a facade, you know.
Yeah, no, I agree. I was trying not to shit on the music community though. That's not so. If anyone listening to this thinks that that's
Oh,
not what I was going for at all.
shit away. I'm just going to nod because I don't have to straight slag someone off. I can just sit and nod at whatever you say.
Yeah. I'll throw myself to the walls. It's fine.
Yeah.
But Paradise Lost dropped, like you said, I think you mentioned it, dropped an album called Host in 1999. Are they related in any way?
They're related in a couple of ways. One, when we did that album, we were literally just saying, let's just do what the hell we want. We don't care. Let's do anything that we feel like doing. And that's much the same as what we're doing with this. We started it, no one asked for it, no one's expecting it. So we can do what the hell we want with it and make it whatever we want. So in that aspect, it's very similar to us. Some of the same influences are there, some of the same sentiment. But I think with this, it's a lot more diverse in its we've dredged in a lot more influences. So for instance, there's everything from piano ballad stuff to synth pop to acousticy stuff to uber goth, stadium rock, all kinds of stuff influenced on this. Whereas it was far more kind of synth rock centric as an album, post the album,
What made you want to concoct all of these different genres, though? Is it just for the love of 80s music? You thought, let's try and smash as many in as physically possible?
No, not at all. It was just we took it a song at a time and approached songwriting slightly differently on every song. So it was kind of just nice to not just pick up a guitar and write stuff. So some songs would start, you play some piano chords. That would be the beginning of the song. And I've left it pretty much like that on the record. So you can hear which song started as an acoustic guitar strumming in the writing process. You can hear which song started as a piano line. You can hear which ones started in, as a bass line. I've left the basses pretty much raw as they were mic'd up. And there's a lot of refined stuff happening around it, sound design, but I like that juxtaposition of a raw, simple bass line, and then you've got all these sprinkles on top. It's kind of nice, kind of interesting. It's interesting from a songwriting perspective. It just makes every day different.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's very different. I think it's going to be received quite well. It's now, forgive me if I get it is 9, isn't it? It's Roman numerals, the brand new album that you're releasing on the 24th of February.
Yeah, it can be 9 or X or IX.
X.
There's a few different things. I mean, when we first started writing the album, we said we were going to do 9 songs. That's it. So 9 was always in our heads. Then we decided to develop it, come with the concept of the band. And Nick came up with the idea for this symbolism thing, so the horse symbol, and we had this XI symbol thing as well for 9. Then I found this mannequin graveyard of all places that became all the artwork for it. And the first video was done at a place in Lincolnshire that's a mannequin graveyard. Hundreds of thousands of mannequins in different states of repair, inside and outside. And so that was amazing, and that just lent itself to this dystopian feel of the artwork, and so X then became IX, I am X, member of society, like a faceless member of society, and it just all fell together really, really well. I don't know how much of it was us having good ideas or how much it was just circumstance and just like, wow, fell across things. You know, it was.
Yeah.
It was nice. It was a nice, easy path. The songwriting was difficult, but apart from that, everything around it kind of fell into place.
Well, firstly, that mannequin graveyard must have been haunting in a way with all that staring at you and whatnot.
Yeah.
Why was the songwriting process difficult?
Because it's not an obvious thing to. It's kind of a lost art marrying sadness, reflectiveness with pop music. It's something that I don't know for sure, but I would say that ABBA perfected in the late 70s this kind of downbeat pop where it's all minor key, it's sad, but you can dance to it. And then in the 80s it got really, I mean, people made some really great music using that method. And it's never been continued. No one ever did it after the 80s, which is why all the rock bands tend to cover 80s pop music. So that's the difficult part, trying to cross over what is essentially should be happy music, you know, dancing and upbeat with sadness, reflectiveness, bittersweet, you know, and it's, for me at least, it's not an easy thing to do. You know, it's much easier to do something like Paradise Lost where you're heading for obvious tragedy, obvious misery, where you I don't know, you've got a definite path. With this stuff, it's kind of shades of grey area, you know. It's hit and miss, I think, in the songwriting process.
Are they lyrics then like story based, or are they personal life experience? What are they?
I would say that he's done the lyrics to mirror the music.
Okay.
There's a lot of repetitiveness to the lyrics, which is on purpose. It's to reflect what goes on in the music, and it's all questions about looking inward and looking at other people. So it's observing, observations about yourself, life, other people, love, the whole thing, the whole shebang, and just like no answers, just observing, you know.
Yeah. I mean, I luckily got to check it out earlier, and I really enjoyed it. It's definitely very different, and that's why I got new wave vibes, like gothy pop type sort of style. This is what I took away from it. I really enjoyed Instinct, I Ran, and Tomorrow Sky. I think those three really stood out to me. I think Tomorrow Sky started off quite dancey poppy at the beginning, and I quite liked that. It was quite funky. I was getting really into it straight away. I think this album's got quite a lot to offer. Every track is so different. Like we were saying, like you literally took Stadium Rock here, we took some new wave here, so some goth pop here, acoustic bass. It's absolutely crazy. It's great. It does have a few Paradise Lost tendencies, but I think you mentioned that before as well. So yeah, are you excited? Are you excited for the release?
I am. It's trepidation. I'm excited, but I'm also thinking, like, I'm getting asked a lot about are we taking this live?
Okay.
And the only way we could take it live, I mean, we want to. The only way we could, though, is depending on a few factors: how the album's received, then in turn, what the offers are like that come back from that. So festival gig offers. And then if those gig and festival offers are substantial enough to put together what we would deem a show worthy of this. So, because it would have to be more theatrical. It'd have to have some projection or some sort of, you know, something that would made it, brought it to life. So it's ifs and buts. But if those all fall into place, then there's no reason why we can't, you know.
Were the singles well received? The ones you've released so far?
Yeah, I'm not a social media guy. Well, I'm not a social guy. But I read the YouTube comments, and the YouTube hits are crazy off the scale. The pre-orders are great. I can't complain. Everything's looking promising. But I never believe anything till I see it. So we'll see what happens. Yeah.
Well, I'll be shouting from the rooftops. When I started listening to it, I already knew. I was like, I know so many people that enjoy this. So as soon as it's out, I'll be like, guys, you need to go and check this out. It's incredible. So you obviously mentioned that you would like to take it live. That was my next question. So what exactly does the future look like then with Host?
Well, the whole point to it is that we don't look at it forward with it. It's a suck it and see thing. We literally are. It's how we approached the forming of it. It's how we approached every song as we were writing it. The recording of it, getting signed, everything was just like, let's see what happens. We're not, there are no plans. If all those things fall into place, we'll take it live. If we feel like it's something that we want to move forward with and we feel inspired, we'll write more stuff. But it's not something that anyone asked for or expected, as I keep saying. So it's that's half the fun of it. It's just off the cuff. It's completely what we feel like doing at the time. And you can't look too far ahead with that, because your views change, your outlook changes day to day, week to week. So it's what I would, if I said I was going to write an album and it was going to sound like this, and I might feel totally differently by the time that date arrived.
Yeah. Well, hopefully we'll see you out on the road at some point.
Yeah.
I'll be keeping my eyes peeled, put it that way. But just a final question before I let you get out of here, because I know you've had quite a busy day from the sounds of it.
No, I've got more. Yeah, more.
Oh, jeez.
Got to finish one. 15 minutes late for that as well.
Shit.
It's all right. Everything's run over. It's okay.
Okay. I'll end on this last question then. When you were at school, when you had all the tribes and whatnot and everything else, and then you formed this band, Paradise Lost, and obviously got to now with Host, did you ever think that back then this is where you would be today?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. I was a serious kid, far too serious. Weight of the world on the shoulders and all that, and took everything, So, and a bit of a fatalist. So no. I was probably one of these people that thought I wouldn't make it past 26.
Oh, wow.
I mean, a lot of people are like that. Angsty.
Yeah.
And I got over that, but it took me a long time. So no, I didn't think so at all. And I'm thankful for it every day. And it's a learning experience. That's how I treat it. I treat it as like, like the Bandcamp thing I mentioned. I found a band last week, and I told our manager about it. I just said, Dead Bird they called, from Brighton, I think. And the description, I thought, I'm going to hate this. They said something like post screamo or something.
Okay.
I was like, Jesus, I'm going to hate this. Played it. It's fucking great. So, so I'm constantly surprised, and I love that feeling of surprise and learning as well. Like, you think you know it all, and then something else comes along, and it's it's been my life, and hopefully it'll continue to be.
Well, I can imagine so. I've got everything crossed for you, but I can't imagine so.
Yeah.
Greg, this has been great. Thank you so much for taking the time out to chat to me tonight. I really appreciate it, and I wish you all the best with the album and with the rest of the interviews tonight.
You too, Tom.
Thanks for listening. Make sure you keep up to date with future episodes by subscribing to our channels. For more information on this podcast, or for all the latest music news, reviews, interviews and more, head over to our website, www.therazorsedge.rocks.